What's up YouTube? Schlost coming at you with the first in a series of videos about wavy and glossy Yu-Gi-Oh cards. In this video I'll be going through what exactly a wavy card is, why we apply that term to those cards, how to identify them, and which cards are available in wavy print. I'm sure many of you have already heard a lot of the things I'll say in this video, but I wanted to go through everything from scratch to make sure it's accessible even to those without much experience. So the term wavy, which was originally known as first print, was coined when collectors realized that the first edition cards from the original North American LOB expansion were printed on two different cardstocks. One which was duller and had a wavy texture to it, hence the name, and one with a much flatter, glossier surface. So starting with these two, I've got two first edition Red Eyes Black Dragons from LOB. The one on the left is a wavy print, and the one on the right is a glossy print. Now, right away, even without looking at the surfaces, you can probably see that the text is a little bolder on the wavy copy on the left, and the colors are also quite different, although that doesn't have to be the case. Looking at them under the light, you can see that the wavy version has these vertical ripples running up and down right across the entire card, and the glossy version has a much more reflective surface and is more or less flat. So the terms wavy and glossy refer exclusively to this cardstock that you're seeing at the moment. And when compared to glossy, there are differences actually both on the front and the back. It's a little harder to capture on camera, but a glossy card actually has a slightly duller surface on the back when compared to a wavy card, which has more of a kind of waxy layer applied to it. Like I said, it's a little harder to see on camera, but hopefully you can get something of it there. It takes quite a lot of time to get used to recognizing the differences between wavy and glossy, so I'll go over a couple of other examples now. And if you don't have much experience with these cards, it'll probably help to run over this part of the video a few times to try and spot what I'm referring to. So what I'll show you next is a couple of mystical elves, again, first edition LOB print. And again, the one on the left is a wavy print, and the one on the right is a glossy print. This time you can see the text difference isn't as obvious, but the wavy still is a little bolder and darker in that text box. But if we look at them in the light, you should see the same patterns appearing again. The glossy on the right with a very reflective, flat surface, and the wavy on the left with a much duller and rippled surface. And it's important to note that the waves are always vertical. That is how you know you're looking at a wavy print card. And just to give one more example, we have a couple of first edition LOB dark holes. Again, the one on the left is the wavy print, and the one on the right is the glossy version. If I hold them up close, you should be able to see that difference in text. The one on the left has a slightly bolder font. The one on the right is lighter and thinner. And again, if I put them in the light, you can see that the glossy print has that flat, reflective surface all over it. And the wavy print on the left has that duller surface with the ripples running all the way down the card. So as far as first edition cards are concerned, wavy print only exists for the North American LOB expansion, and it exists for every card in the set aside from the retail secret rare, Gaia the Dragon Champion, since for some reason retail boxes of wavy print were not produced. So every Gaia the Dragon Champion you'll normally see looks like this with the reflective, flat, glossy print surface. Now, I do actually have an example here of a wavy first edition Gaia the Dragon Champion, which I'll show now. You can see it's got those ripples running up and down the card. But this card cannot be pulled from a first edition wavy print LOB box, so it's not part of the regular print run. So up to this point in this video, we've only looked at first edition LOB cards, like these two mystical elves. And telling the difference between a first edition glossy print card and a first edition wavy print card, once you get to know the differences a little better, is actually fairly easy. But collectors realized shortly after the term wavy was started that there are actually unlimited versions of Wavy print cards as well as first edition. So if I get rid of this glossy Mystical Elf for a second, I can show you this, which is an unlimited LOB Mystical Elf. But if you look, you should be able to see that it displays the same pattern up and down the card as the first edition version. And whereas for first edition Wavy print cards, they only exist in LOB, in Unlimited they were actually also printed in the first starter decks which were released, Yugi and Kaiba. So what I'm going to show you now is a couple of examples of that. So you can see for the first edition versions of these cards, they are only available in glossy print. And there are certainly no Wavy copies in existence, but for the Unlimited, you can actually find Wavy print versions of all of the holos. And I'll just show you that for the Blue Eyes as well. You can see the first edition version has that glossy cardstock all over it. But here the Unlimited version has those ripples running up and down it, which show you that it is a Wavy print card. Now, one thing that's very important to realize when looking at Wavy Unlimited cards is that unlike the first editions, where every card is either a Wavy or a glossy print, with the Unlimiteds, there are a lot more printings because the cards were printed continuously throughout 2002 and 2003. So here we have the first edition Wavy print Mystical Elf and the Unlimited print, which I showed you earlier. And you can see again that they match up perfectly when it comes to the shape of the foiling. But what I'm going to show you next is another Unlimited Mystical Elf, which at first looks very similar to the first edition Wavy print copy. They have more or less the same colors, the same printing style, the same thickness of font. And even when I put them in the light, you can see that they both have some kind of pitting to the texture. But whereas the Wavy print on the left has that deep vertical ripple going all the way down the card, the copy on the right doesn't display the same consistency of foiling. And so the one on the left is a Wavy print, but the one on the right, even though it looks pretty similar, is not in fact Wavy print. And I'll show you another example of that now. So here we have a couple of Unlimited trap holes from LOB. And again, when you look at them at first, you can't see much of a difference. They seem to have the same colors and the same font on the card. But when you put them in the light, you should hopefully again be able to see that the copy on the left has those deep ripples up and down the card, which show that it is a Wavy print. Whereas the copy on the right, even though it has some kind of texture, does not display that same vertical waviness that defines a Wavy print. Now, not all Unlimited cards which are not Wavy look as similar as this to Wavy. This card on the left is what I refer to as a 1.5 print, and a number of other collectors do as well now. And what I mean by that is the card is pretty much halfway between a Wavy print LOB card and a card from MRD. So if we take this 1.5 print trap hole, and I'm going to put it next to a first edition Horn of Heaven from MRD, from the front they don't look that similar because the trap hole still has the same printing style as a Wavy print card. But if we flip them around to the back, you should hopefully be able to see that the cards actually have the same cardstock on the back, which has some pitting to it, and it's a much rougher look than the backstock of a Wavy print LOB card. So yeah, I'm going to refer to these from here on as 1.5 print cards for that reason. So we're getting towards the end of the video now, but there are a couple last topics I wanted to touch on in this part. So the first one is faded cards. In other words, those cards which I'm sure many of you have seen before, which have the lack of magenta ink in the printing. So these are two trap holes. This one shows the correct color for the card to be, and this one is clearly pretty off color. I'm not going to go into too much detail about these cards and theories behind them in this video because I am only talking about Wavy prints here, but I thought it was important to mention that although Wavy cards like this trap hole on the left do often display fading, There's no direct link between a card being faded and it being wavy. Many wavy cards are not faded, and some cards are faded without being wavy. So I'll just give you one example of that. Here we have a couple of Curse of Dragons. And the one on the left is a wavy print, and you can see it is not faded. Whereas the one on the right is faded. But if I put it in the light, you can see that it's actually just one of those 1.5 print cards, and it doesn't actually have that wavy texture. And the final thing, which I thought I should mention just because I have seen a few people make this mistake before, is the comparison between a wavy print card and a 2014 Legendary Collection reprint. Now, when I put them next to each other like this, you can probably see that there are some pretty significant differences in the colors on the card, the style of the printing, the font, and things like that. But when I put them in the light, you can see that the one on the right actually has a pretty similar texture to the one on the left. Particularly when you shine the foil, you should be able to see that it's actually reasonably similar on both cards. Now obviously Dark Hole is a spell card in the reprint, so that's a pretty obvious way to tell. You can also find 3 stars in the Eye of Anubis. You should be able to see it there on the reprints, which is not on the original Eye of Anubis. And the back of the reprints is also a considerably lighter color than the back of a wavy print card. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that as well. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something, and please do leave a like, subscribe, comment, share the video, whatever you can do to make sure more collectors see it. I put a lot of time into making this series, and I'd really appreciate it if you could all help it reach a wider audience. And of course, stay tuned for the next episode in this series when I will ask the question, what is a glossy Yu-Gi-Oh card?